I was really excited as I started joining the center and rear fuselages together, shown here right in the middle of the screen. Right up until I started routing the rudder cable. I quickly discovered that the rudder conduit end fitting, shown here in the red circled area, was hitting up against the shaft collars I added to the rear elevator torque tubes. So this meant I had to make a couple of changes in order to eliminate the interference between these two parts. The major change was to relocate these shaft collars so that they're on the inside of the rib instead of on the outside. It was really so that these conduit fittings at the end of the rudder tubes or rudder cables would have enough room to sit inside this side of the frame. I had to make a modification to the floor ribs as well. I had to remove some material from these flanges on either side of the shaft collar to ensure I could rotate around without catching either of those flanges. I made sure to remove enough materials from these flanges so that both the shaft collar and the set screw wouldn't catch. While I had everything apart, I decided to make a few improvements to these bearing plates. I had recently started playing around with a powder coating paint system, so I gave these a blast of powder coat and then baked them to a nice durable finish. I think it looks great. The second thing I did was design these boots that go over the bearings. The ones that I had picked were a non-sealed variety or an open variety, and I wanted to get a sealed style, but they're quite expensive. I think of the handful of vendors I found that make them, they were several $100s each. And I think it's because they're just made to a much higher industrial grade specification, and there's probably very limited demand for them. So I designed these little rubber boots to go over the bearing to keep contaminants out. They just sit on top of the bearing, and then they're held in place with a couple of flush rivets, one on either side on these little ears. That seems to do the trick. But everything's riveted back together now, and I'm happy to show you that it still moves quite freely. Right now I don't have the push-pull tube from up in the center fuselage connected, so right now this is just really resting on the bearing and is connected to the autopilot servo right now, and it moves quite freely, so I'm pretty pleased with that. So I'm ready to move on and start joining up the center and rear fuselages now. As usual, you'll find some more pictures and description on my blog, linked in the description below. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.